Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another video. Today we're going to recap week 15 of the NFL season. There was quite a few upsets, there was also a few blowouts. But we'll recap each one, what my reactions to for each game, and let's get into it. Starting off, we had the Falcons beating the Bucks 29-28. I don't know why I was going to say 59. But yeah. But let's just get this out of the way, right? Baker Mayfield, he played actually probably his best game in quite a little while. And he did. And the rushing game, he at least had some juice to it. Bucky Irving had 60 yards off 16 carries. Mayfield himself had 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But it was not enough to beat the Falcons, as the Falcons came from behind and scored 15 points in the fourth quarter to win it. Kirk Cousins had 373 yards and 3 touchdowns. And yeah, the Buccaneers defense is just not good. And it seems like the Buccaneers just don't want to win the NFC South for whatever reason, but yeah, they just have not been doing all too great. Atlanta's rushing, Bijan Robinson got 93 yards and he's off 19 carries. So Atlanta's rushing game did pretty well as well. And hey, you know what? This is an upset that I picked right. I thought I could trust the Falcons a little bit more, and I was right. The Buccaneers has just not been all that great this year. And yeah, this game proves why I did not trust the Buccaneers. But yeah, there's not really too much else to say with this one because yeah, I don't know what's going to happen between the Bucs and the Panthers. They'll probably tie in record, but the Bucs get into the tiebreaker. That may just be the case. They might go 8-9. Either that or the Bucs go 9-8 with the win over the Dolphins. But I expect a split between those two teams, between them and the Panthers. But yeah, I truly just don't think there's really that much of a hope even in the playoffs of the Buccaneers. And then the Falcons, they've already been eliminated. They're just playing for more wins, or just draft stock if they try to go the losing route. So yeah, the Falcons just proved exactly why I trusted them more. Next up, we had the Chicago Bears win 31-3 against the Cleveland Browns. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I expected this game to be a lot closer than it was. So a 31-3 score, I love it. Going to the Browns first, Shedeur Sanders, he played not good at all. Only getting 177 yards and throwing 3 interceptions. Hey, you know what? The Bears defense is really good at getting takeaways, and 3 interceptions just adds on to the pile. But yeah, Shedeur really did not play all too well, and their rushing game didn't really do all too much either, with Quinshon Judkins not even being the leading rusher with 12 carries. But the Bears, Caleb probably put in one of his best performances of the season, 242 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the rushing game wasn't there all too much this game, but it did get going a bit, with DeAndre Swift having 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. And might I say, the Bears might just win the NFC North. They might. Because just winning 2 games, including the Packers, if they win against the Packers, they only need 1 more to clinch the division, I believe. And hey, you know what? I think that's really good. Just I do kind of think the Bears will win the division. As they could even just clinch it off next week if things go right. I don't think they will next week, but hey, you know what? This is a great win for the Bears. The Browns, at this point, they're going for draft stock. And yeah, we'll have Bears versus Packers in this next week, in the rematch next week. Next up, how did this happen? We had the Baltimore Ravens win 24-0 against the Cincinnati Bengals. Lamar? Okay, hold on. If I'm reading this correct, Lamar only had 12 passes throughout the game. And they only had like 40 overall. Let me see the total play count. Yeah, 40 overall plays compared to Cincinnati 71. No. Okay. Yeah. This could have been even worse. Holy. Because, Lamar Jackson had 150 yards of 12 attempts. Let that sink in. 12 attempts, 150 total yards. Now, net in passing yards only ended up being 128 because he took 22 yards from sacks. But that's really good. And the rushing game absolutely hit it off. And Derrick Henry getting the 100-yard mark off 11 carries. You know what? Let's go to the Bengals more because I thought Joe Burrow was going to be back to basically his usual winning ways again. But what happened here? 225 yards of 39 attempts and 2 picks. And I said in the picks video that I think he's going to fully be back now. Maybe a little bit caution during that first game. The Bills game was a little bit more getting into it again, but not quite there. But then he would be quite there again this game. But that just did not happen. I don't know what happened in this game. And yeah, I just have nothing, honestly, because they just did not play well at all. They were just not ready for this game. And yeah, with this loss, the Bengals all officially out of the playoff hunt. Even with a weaker AFC North this year, and the Ravens are just about back in it. I'm not gonna lie, I was ready to write off the Ravens, especially if they lost this game, since they would have been 6-8. I projected the Steelers to go to 8-6 with the win against the Dolphins. They did, but we'll get to that game in a little bit. But the Ravens still have a chance. They still do have a chance. And do I think the Ravens are going to absolutely be the best team throughout the last 3 weeks? Still no. I don't think they will. But it would be a nice surprise. But with the schedule the Ravens have, even just the next 2 weeks before they face the Steelers again, it's extremely wish-washy if the Ravens were to make the playoffs. I thought the Steelers winning in the division, but the Ravens, at least for now, are still in it. Next up, we have the Chargers win 16-13 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, this game was essentially the game in that eliminated the Chiefs from the playoffs for the first time in 10 years. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes did not play all too great, and he even suffered a torn ACL in this game, so yeah, there's not too much else to say with this one on the Chiefs side. The rushing game could not really get going either, and even Gardner Minshew and Mahomes' place did not play all too great. For the Chargers, I don't really have too much else to say either. Justin Herbert didn't play all too great. I did sort of expect this game to not be all too great either, but yeah, the rushing game also was not all too great. Melvin Hampton, only got 61 yards off 15 carries, and he was the best rusher out there for the Chargers. And yeah, this one was much more like a snooze fest game, but hey, you know what? Shout out to the man. Who was it again that had it? Oh, wait, hold on. It's over here. To Derwin James for getting that late interception that sealed the Chiefs' loss. And you know what? The Chiefs had that ball. Derwin James intercepted it. Sealed Chargers win. Chiefs officially got eliminated from playoff contention from that play because all the 3 games that needed to go the other way had already finished. So this was the last one to finish within those games the Chiefs needed to possibly make the playoffs still. And this one was that final dagger. So, yeah, shout out to Derwin James there. And, yeah, overall, this was just more of a boring game. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills beat the New England Patriots 35-31. At first, I thought the Patriots was going to have this one in the bag. 24-7 at half for the Patriots. And Drake May looked good at the first half there. But then everything fell apart, and Josh Allen did his thing. Bills won. As Allen overall didn't play all too great. He had 19 incompletions of 28 attempts for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is more on the good side. I will say that. He did play rather well. Not the best, but definitely could have been worse. And James Cook had 107 yards off 22 carries, which, hey, you know what? Props to him. And yeah, that's not really all too much else to say with the Bills since they were able to come back. It was more towards the Patriots. Okay, the Patriots had 155 yards in a pick from Drake May, which is more towards on the all-white side, but that pick did have an impact in that second half. And I would say the rushing game played tremendously well against the Bills. It was against the Bills' rush defense, but this is what rushing games should do against the Bills. Or just against any good team. TreVeyon Henderson had 148 yards off 14 carries and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, it's safe to say that the rushing game absolutely did well here. And Drake May also had 43 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, which, if you started him in fantasy, well, you didn't really get all too much outside of those rushing yardage since he did have a pick and only 155 yards in him, but at least at first he should have been excited with how he performed, but then he ended up leveling out. But overall, I just didn't see too much from the passing game, considering he only got 155 yards, to really trust the Patriots against those tougher defenses. Because, this was the toughest opponent for the Patriots in a little while. And that did kind of show in that second half. In the first half, it looked like they were just going to carry away with the game. But Bills came back. The division is still wide open. The Patriots has the Ravens next week, but otherwise divisional opponents. And the Bills, yeah, they have an easier schedule as well. Both these two teams have an easier schedule outside of the Ravens for the Patriots. But you know what? We'll see what ends up happening throughout this game, throughout the rest of the season for these two teams. I still think the Patriots win the division, but the Bills could be that game behind. I think that will be the case. Whether it's 14-3 and 13-4, or maybe even 13-4 and 12-5 for whatever reason. But yeah, I think that this division is going to come down to that last week. And I think the Patriots will still take it, but we'll see how these two teams do on the road. But for now, the Bills got the win. Next up, we have the Washington Commanders win 29-21 against the New York Giants. Okay, so with the Commanders being shut out last week, you still won against the Giants this week. What? Because okay. Mariota had a pretty low completion percentage as well, 10 of 19, but still got to 211 yards. And yeah, okay. So I guess Washington only really did the watching game as well, since Kroski got to 96 yards and had a touchdown, but didn't do all too much else. There's not really too much that I have to say with the Commanders. What? I expected this to be the opposite way, because the Commanders just absolutely stunk it up against the Vikings this past week. What? The Giants? How can you not score more points against this Commanders defense? Truly. 246 yards off 36 complete attempts for Jackson Dart. 2 touchdowns and a pick. How did he even allow a pick? And 70 yards from Tyrone Tracy. And yeah, I don't really have too much else to say with this game, because I did not expect this result at all. I just expected, okay, if anything, I thought it would have been close, but I did not expect the Commanders to win this at all. Especially even just getting to 22-7.5. What? But yeah, I have nothing to say with this game. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles just shut out the Raiders 31-0, and yeah, Kenny Pickett just absolutely sucks. He was not better than Geno Smith at the slightest, only getting 64 yards, even just 29 net passing yards from the sack yardage off 25 attempts. Yeah, that's really not good. And just throughout the season, Ashton Jeanty has not really produced much in the rushing game. And I expected at least some points for the Raiders, but I guess it's against the Eagles defense makes sense. What I'm a little more surprised about is how good the Eagles offense is, but maybe it's just to the point where the Raiders defense is that bad. I think the Raiders might actually get the number 1 overall pick because they all that bad. The Giants probably will win a game in somewhere, and maybe the Titans as well. And I just think the Raiders actually has that much of a chance to get the 1 seed. Not the 1 seed. The number 1 draft pick. And for the Eagles, yeah, they just dominated against the Raiders. And there's not really too much to be said about this game regarding the future because we all know against an actually good opponent, the Eagles is probably going to fall off again. But at least for this week, they still did good. And considering 2 of their next 3 is against the Commanders, the Eagles are definitely going to win the division. In fact, even they just win once, they win the division and make the playoffs. So, yeah, they're almost a lock for the playoffs. And, yeah, there's not really too much else to be said. They just dominated. Next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars win 48-20 against the New York Jets. Trevor Lawrence, he has absolutely came out to play throughout these past few weeks. He had 330 yards and 5 touchdowns against the Jets. And also had 51 yards off 5 carries as well, rushing. And a touchdown. He has absolutely went to ball out in this game. He has. And it shows in that 48 points. Now, for the Jets side, yeah, Brady Cooks continues to not really be all too great either. 22 of 33, not really that great. 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Yeah. And did the Jets win another game? Maybe not, but yeah. I just knew from the beginning this was going to be the Jaguars' game to win. And just based on the talent of the rosters that they've had these past few weeks. And yeah, there's really not much else to say with this one. The Jaguars just absolutely they just beat the Jets by a lot, which a lot of people should have expected. Next up, we have the Houston Texans win 40-20 against the Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, I did not expect this much from Houston. 40 points? You know what? The Cardinals 20 makes more sense than the Texans 40 in my eyes, because I at least expected it to be a little bit more of a low-scoring, close game between these two, considering just how the Texans' offense has been throughout the year. The 40 points? That's insane. Woody Marks did not even have the most carries in this game. Gerald Jordan did. As Gerald Jordan had 101 yards on 15 carries. As CJ Stroud had 22 of 29 with 260 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's actually really good. And yeah, there's not really much else to say with the Texans side because they just absolutely exceeded my expectations for this week. Going over to the Cardinals now. Yeah, do I really have to say anything? This is pretty much the same stuff as before. Jacoby Brissett doing all right. 249 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Their rushing game didn't really do all too much. Cardinals already out of playoffs. They're already eliminated. Houston, they're just trying to make it. And they're likely to now. So, good job, Houston. And yeah, I just really did not expect the Texans to get to 40 points. This result here builds confidence in my own mind that the Texans would make it. Not that I expected them to lose more games, but don't the Texans have the Raiders next week? If so, yeah, they likely made it. So yeah, Texans won a pretty good one, and yeah, there's not really much else to say. Next up, we have the Packers lose to the Broncos 34-26. Now, the Broncos. Bo Nix had a really good game. 23 of 34, 302 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's a really good passing game. The rushing game didn't really do all too much. RJ Harvey only getting to 65 yards, but hey, you know what? He did absolutely great. Bo Nix did absolutely great. I mean, not RJ Harvey. For the Packers, Jordan Love did not do all too great against the Broncos defense. 276 yards of 40 attempts, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. The rushing game was able to hit it off, though, with Josh Jacobs getting 73 yards and a touchdown. Now, my main concern with the Packers going forward probably going to be the pass rush, considering Micah Parsons also tore his ACL this week. So, Bears probably got a little bit more lucky for this upcoming week, but hey, you know what? The Packers loss put us back to number 1 of the NFC North. So, I can't be too mad about this loss at all. About this game at all. Actually, I'm happy about this game. Even though I did pick the Packers to win. But, yeah. I thought this game is a closer one. That I just had the Packers winning. But, you know what? The Broncos winning was also a win in my eyes. So, yeah. Broncos played absolutely great against the Packers, and the Packers fell to number 2 in the division again. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Rams win 41-34 against the Lions. I picked the Lions in a high-scoring shootout. Actually, you know what? It did hit in the 70s. I expected it to be in the low 60s minimum, but expected it to be in those high 60s, low 70s area. So, you know what? The amount of points scored, I was about there. But I had the wrong winner. But overall, the offense is played pretty good. Defense is not so much, but the Lions just absolutely did not do well in defense at all. Matthew Stafford had 368 yards for 2 touchdowns and a pick. The defense at least got a pick off Stafford. We could say that, but Kyren Williams had 78 yards. Blake Corum had 71 yards. And 3 touchdowns between the two. So, yeah, outside of the one pick, the Lions defense really just did not do anything. And for the Lions offense, Jahmyr Gibbs really did not do anything. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs would be that key in order to beat the Rams, but he actually did not do anything, which probably was the reason why the Lions did not win. Because Gibbs has been hit or miss throughout the season. And that really showed this game. But Goff in general got to 338 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no picks. And Jahmyr Gibbs only had 38 yards off 13 carries. So, I'll say this, though. With the Lions' loss here, it became more unlikely for the Lions to make it to the playoffs. I felt like the Lions could have sneakily made the playoffs. Hopefully not against Bears, had they have won. But now that they lost, they're in a really tough spot. Because if they lose even just one more game, yeah, that makes a lot of teams just make the playoffs. Because here's the thing. If the Lions lose, the 49ers are in, the Seahawks are in, the winner of the Bears-Packers is already going to be in after next week. So, yeah, it's down to that now within the NFC side of the playoffs. The Rams, they officially made it in after this game, and the Broncos are officially in after their game against the Packers. So, 2 teams are in. We don't have to wait on each of the other 6 within those particular conferences. But, yeah, the Rams got it done, and the Lions, they fall to 8-6. Next up, we have the New Orleans Saints win 20-17 against the Carolina Panthers. And yeah, this is the other side of like the no one wants to win the NFC South because the Panthers just absolutely, because especially after Thursday night, I thought the Panthers was like the favorite to win, but then they just did not play well. Bryce Young had 163 yards off 24 attempts and a touchdown, and Rico Dowdle really did not do all too much either, only getting to 49 yards off 16 carries. And I thought maybe after in the previous game against the Rams that Chuba Hubbard would have a little bit more workload. No, he only got to 29 yards off 8 carries, having half the carries that Rico Dowdle had. So, yeah. I thought it was going to be a little more 50-50, but it ended up not. But let's go to the winners of this game now. The Saints, they are actually performing like the best team of the NFC South. Too bad it was too late because I would have rather had this team now than the Bucs or the Panthers because the Saints already eliminated, but I would have loved for this team to be the one that's in now. Tyler Shuck had 272 yards, saw 32 attempts, and a touchdown in this game. And the Panthers defense just did not do all too much against Chuck. And Devin Neal, while he's not been the best running back so far, he is up and coming a little bit, getting to 28 yards off 7 carries. Maybe not like this game quite yet. It's like a breakout game. I expect him to possibly have a breakout game sometime within the next few weeks, considering the Saints does have the Jets and the Titans. But and the Falcons week 18. But yeah, I think that the Saints has good momentum to end the year strong, go into next year, and possibly, if they build on it, even win the division next year. We'll see what happens with the Bucs and the Panthers next year. I don't think the Panthers is going to be quite as good, but the Bucs, I think, do bounce back a bit next year. But yeah, the Saints could be a dark horse to win the division next year. It's too bad it came a little bit late for this season, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Next up, we have the 49ers beat the Titans 37-24. Now, the 49ers, hey, you know what? They took care of business against the Titans. Titans could end up actually being a sneakier team, considering they have been playing a little bit better recently than they have early on in the season. But they took care of business. For the Titans, Cam Ward had 170 yards and 2 touchdowns off of 29 attempts, which isn't the best, but is a lot better than early on in the season for sure. And Tony Pollard has actually been doing really well recently. He did have a pretty good game, I think, last week. And now he had 104 yards this week and a touchdown. So he has been doing great throughout these past 2 weeks. For the 49ers, more of the same old stuff. Brock Purdy had 9.8 average, getting 295 yards and 3 touchdowns. And yeah, like I said before, the 49ers just absolutely took care of business against the Titans. And yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. Next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks win 18-16 against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I'm not going to lie. The Seahawks continue to scare me throughout the season so far in terms of their offense, as Sam Darnold was more on the all-white side with this game, going 271 yards off 36 attempts, with 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. In fact, the Seahawks did not even get a single touchdown in this game. They had 18 points for Jason Myers. If you had Myers in fantasy, you probably won this week. And with this being the first week of the playoffs for a lot of leagues out there, you likely you made it through. And if you faced Jason Myers, I'm so sorry. Luckily, I have Myers in my league. However, I do have the first round bye in mine, since I did end up getting the 1 seed. So, let me get away from the fantasy talk now. But the rushing game for the Seahawks did not really do all too well, which probably helped Jason Myers get that many points. Then, let's go over the Colts, because Philip Rivers did not play all too well. It was incredibly expected, considering he is coming off 4 years of just not playing in the league. So, it was extremely expected. And Jonathan Taylor in the rushing game did not do all too bad himself. So, hey, you know what? Major props to Taylor as well. And yeah, this really not all too much else to say with this one, considering, yeah, I expected the Seahawks to win. Maybe not by this close of numbers, but I did expect the Seahawks to win. So, yeah, not really much else to be said here. Next up, we had the Minnesota Vikings win 34-26 against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Vikings, he did pretty well. Well, McCarthy did play pretty well throughout this game as well. I'll give him props. I didn't expect him to play as well as he did the previous week against the Commanders defense, but although against the Cowboys defense, which is also a weaker defense, he did play pretty well against this defense as well. And going 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, the rushing game didn't do all too much either, but yeah, McCarthy played well. Now, going to Prescott, he did all right. 294 yards off 38 attempts isn't all too bad, but they just could not really get all too much going. Javonte Williams had 91 yards off 15 carries, but the Cowboys' offense could not out-compete the Vikings' offense against that defense. So, the Cowboys are likely going to be out of the playoffs. It's pretty much following next week, I would think, since the Eagles has the Commanders. So, both these teams are not really in the best light anymore to possibly even make it in. And both these teams are really just going for the positive momentum going into next season as well now. Is they're also out of like those top picks with 6 wins each. But yeah, for this game, McCarthy played really well in Dak Prescott, and the Cowboys just continued to lose games. And finally, we had the Pittsburgh Steelers win 28-15 against the Miami Dolphins. The Steelers, Aaron Rodgers played excellent. 23 of 27 for 224 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Kenneth Gainwell played pretty well as well, getting 80 yards off 13 carries. Jaylen Warren had 33 as well, but he has fallen off recently to where Kenneth Gainwell is the main back now. I do need Warren to at least finish out the season strong, because he is on my fantasy team as well, as one of my starting running backs as well, so not really looking great there, but hey, you know what? At least my other starting running back is Achane, who went 60 yards. He's off 12 carries. This game, but overall, the Dolphins really did not do too much either, as Tua had 253 yards off 28 attempts. Actually, Tua did play kind of well. What? How did they only get to 15 points? Whatever. Tua did play pretty well overall, but it did kind of come down to, like, cold weather, I think. That was a key issue. Because a lot of these points did come in, stay with me, garbage time. So, yeah, there really was not too much else to say with this one. Miami only got 3 points in those first 3 quarters. It was already 21-3. It even got to 28-3 at one point. So, yeah, a lot of these yardage came in that garbage time. So, yeah, the Dolphins didn't play all too great. Overall, Tua did play good in the fourth quarter, but the 3 quarters beforehand, not all too much. But, yeah, Dolphins officially got eliminated from the playoffs following this game. And the Steelers, they're in the hopes of the playoffs, continue to be likely. So, yeah. And that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked it, please hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!